It's a New Year's Day edition of Rapid Reactions, a surprising rapid reaction. But what's not surprising is we're always fueled by Friends of Coal. It's resilient, reliable, affordable. Friends of Coal, Kentucky.org. Find out more. Shout out to Friends of Coal for fueling all of our rapid reactions. Usually they're after games. Many times they're, they can be joyful.
During
Today's
national holidays.
Yeah. The portal, it's getting ready to happen. So, you can expect some more of these. And we got some big news this afternoon, just hours before the transfer portal officially opens for business. On Three's Pete Nakos and Steve Wiltfong reported that Cutter Boley is, in fact, entering the transfer portal. And Luckett, this is I'm sure there's going to be some people in the chat who said, "You idiot said he was coming back. You said it." Well, we can kind of tell you how everything unfolded and kind of peel back the curtain now that it has officially happened. But that's why what was it, 11 personnel where you were just like trending? It's trending. It's not. He's not signed.
Everything is fluid, like I always like to say. Here's what I'll say. I was told that Cutter Boley was a priority. And I was always under the assumption that, if Kentucky's making him a priority, it's going to be hard for him to go somewhere else at the end of the day. But I think one thing I think fans kind of buck back on is there's no one that would want him. Like he wouldn't have a market, but he did specifically had a market. And we always heard watch potentially some Big 12 schools.
Big 12, yeah. A little bit of ACC sprinkled in there.
Yeah, because now you're seeing why I watch some Big 12 schools, because they've had 5 starters leave the conference. So they've got to backfill that, right? So it was trending in that direction, but it definitely wasn't. It wasn't a situation where Kentucky, I think, was willing to spend top dollar money here. Like with anything in this new world, each player you put a price tag on a player, and you really have to kind of stick with that. And so I think for Kentucky, they made an evaluation here, and I think the situation as it developed, Boley's going somewhere, I think, where he's probably feels he's a little bit needed more, and the financial figure is probably going to back that up. Now, a lot of this stuff, Nick, is, it's hidden under the table. We don't know the financials specifically.
Right.
So it's hard to say definitively one way or the other, but that's 100% what this kind of smells like.
I mean, to your point, and we hear a lot of stuff in this process, and it's hard to tell the smoke from the fire. But there was somebody I was speaking to today that said that Mitch actually wanted to, pony up big time to make sure Boley stayed, and Stein was like, no. I want that money elsewhere. we're gonna draw a hard line in the sand. But I will say, that first and foremost, it's the reason why handicapping it as a favorite was that this, no matter what, we're going to talk about all of the stuff that happened. It always just made the most sense for him to come back to Kentucky. It just did, right? You're a guy who's from here. You played pretty well as a freshman, and they're bringing in a quarterbacks coach. It just logically, that always made the most sense. But logic doesn't always win out in this, right? There's a lot of moving parts. And the first person we got to blame in all of this, if you're upset that Cutter Boley is leaving, is Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops is number one to blame.
Mark Stoops catching strays even when he's not here.
But there was, I think, if you set just financial dollars aside or whatever it may be, throughout this entire process, Boley's camp was very reluctant to trust Stein and Sloan and the new Kentucky coaching regime, because they trusted Mark Stoops to give Cutter Boley a chance to win over the starting position. That's what Stoops told him this time a year ago. We're going to bring somebody in, but he's going to have a chance to compete to start. Right? That was the line. He never got QB1 reps in camp, but he was the best player at camp. And Stoops is like, well, if I say nice things about it, that'll at least throw him a bone. And that pissed him off. And then when Cutter came in, he was clearly better than Calzada. So the way things unfolded previously had scarred them and made them worried from the get-go. And it just made them skeptical of everything that Stein was pitching, just straight from the jump. So that always kind of put both sides. I don't want to say necessarily at odds, but it was a tenuous relationship while Kentucky worked their way through it.
Yeah, I think you've kind of wrapped it up there. I think it was a little more complicated maybe than even us really thought it would be. Like on the surface, it just makes sense. You started here. It went well for him.
Yeah.
Year one. You laid a foundation. Kentucky's bringing in one of the best offensive play callers and quarterback kind of guys as the head coach. Like it would make sense that you would want to move forward here. But that's not how it played out. I think, too, Nick, I think there was I think they weren't seeing eye to eye on what the number.
Yeah. Well, because I think from a actions speak louder than words perspective, I mean, Stein was very forthcoming with Boley hey, as soon as he gets a job, he's texting Cutter. They're meeting. Part of Stein's roster evaluation process was with Cutter. It was like, tell me what you think about these guys, right? Like, who needs to stay, who needs to go. They were in lockstep, right? And part of that too is like getting Willie Rodriguez in the fold. Now, there hasn't been anything official. I've just heard, hey, it's trending in the right direction. But everything seemingly was moving in the right direction, except they didn't see eye to eye on that number. And so, okay, let me ask you this. Does that worry you that Kentucky doesn't have the money to get the right number for the right quarterback? Or do you just think that Stein wasn't willing to go that far to keep Boley in the fold?
I need to know more. What's the number? And what's the salary cap? Like, it's hard to say. I need to know more. We don't know. So it's hard to make a hard stance one way or the other. You don't know what the number is and what the number they're working with. So the hard thing, specifically in our jobs, like in the NFL, it's a lot easier. You know how much percent there's a salary cap they're spending on a position.
Correct.
And then you've got a prism to look through where he's not playing to that cap hit or whatever, or to the cash the organization is spending. We don't have that.
Correct.
Here. It's hard to say. And I think from a fan perspective, I don't think there's a lot of patience to hear about that, but I think it would be nice for them to know for one way, because we don't know. And again, we're going to learn a lot.
Yeah.
Starting tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily, Nick, to me, like the players they're getting, but like the competitions they're in.
Correct.
Because this new coaching staff, they're not gonna, you're gonna take your swings, but you got to be smart about it. Kentucky's got a lot of holes to fill, so they've got to get in fights they can win, that they think they can win. And if you don't have enough money to to win some of those fights, you've got to pick your battles elsewhere, and I think it's gonna say a lot where they are. And then at quarterback, Nick, they've got 2 scholarship players now.
Yeah, and one of them is not.
One of them might not ever show up. One of them is, got an MLB draft decision. Matt Ponatoski does. So they're in a tough spot. Joe Sloan and all them, and it's, to me, Nick,
5 new offensive line starters.
Right. So how are you? To me, right now, okay, you're going to have to. Kentucky's going to have to go out probably and spend good money to get a quarterback. So then the offensive line, it's almost you have to, I think, evaluate and maybe grab some guys that are backups. Like Matt mentioned on the board the other night that you could see some Oregon guys follow Stein and the guys that are coming. So maybe like a backup offensive lineman for Oregon can come in and be a starter for you. So you've got to maybe hit on some of those because I don't know if you can be willing to spend what it would take to get some top of the line offensive line starters. So how they just manage this kind of budget sheet, it's going to be very interesting. And they got to go get a quarterback again. 4th year in a row, they're in the portal for a quarterback. It's the never ending cycle. They cannot break the wheel.
if you're looking for an estimate on what those players cost, Pete Nakos had rough evaluation, rough numbers for most of the top positions. Starting caliber offensive tackles are going to be north of $1 million. So if you're needing, who knows what about the reserves, but you got to spend at least $3 million, probably closer to $5 million on offensive linemen, just from a pure number standpoint. Quarterbacks, we know they're in the 2 to 4 range, right? Give or take. They got Calzada on the cheap, and it was reported that he was 1.25. So, like, that right there alone is...
If you're getting a top 15 quarterback from the portal, you're probably spending 1 to 1.5, bare minimum.
At least, yeah. So,
now,
like...
I think there's probably going to be, I would say, like a hard cap at 3, because I don't know if top-of-the-line guys are getting outside of, like, the top, like the Sorsby, the Levitt sphere. So, yeah, that's what you're looking at. But, again, we're talking about numbers. Sometimes these numbers, it feels like Monopoly, like we're talking Monopoly money, because we don't really know, like, what's the cash on hand.
But it gets back to a point I shared in a previous podcast that it's hard to do offensive line and quarterback at the same time because they're such premium positions in free agency. That's roughly saying
you're going to have to cut costs somewhere. Yes.
Yeah, because that's $5 million of the $20 million of your total rev share figure. Kentucky football is not getting all $20 million of those dollars in the rev share figure either. So, like, it's going to be a challenge for Pat Biondo, Pete Nocta. And that brings me to what somebody said in the chat. Maybe it's not Stein's decision, but rather our GM. That's his job, right? The way that Mitch Barnhart talked about it is there was something he said that I think is important to note about this GM is that it's ultimately up to Stein, right? Like it's not like the Andrew Luck general manager operation. I don't think that's how they're rolling over there at the Joe Kraft football training facility right now. So ultimately, I think where you draw your line in this, like the buck stops with Stein for big decisions like this. Now, it might be a little bit different once we get, especially into depth pieces and that sort of deal. And like, hey, where do we want to go here? But I do think there is a sense that the buck does ultimately stop with the head coach.
Will Stein called them the brain trust. I think a lot of that maybe has to do with salary cap management. Spreadsheets.
Yep. Here's what we can afford to spend on X, Y, and Z.
And building boards, market. All right, here's what's available at running back. Here's what's available at safety. Mm-hmm. Here are price tags for these players. So, yeah, yes, from a player personnel standpoint, Nick, like the coaches have heavy hands at the table.
Yes. But, and we don't know how the sausage is made. I just wanted to make it the point that, like, I don't think Pat Biondo is over here like, Cutter Boley's not coming back because he doesn't fit my spreadsheet. Like, you work together, but they are trusting the brain trust to get all their ducks in the row. And now they've got to get together a list of potential quarterback additions. And we learned about one this morning, Mr. Luckett. Josh Hoover from TCU, probably the most productive from a stats perspective, nearly 10,000 passing yards over 3 years as a starter at TCU. What I've heard, Luckett, is that they had a big offer out for Hoover a while ago. Maybe that's what got Boley ready to jump. But the way that Pete Thamel worded that report, we have to acknowledge it. But Pete Thamel said that Indiana is targeting Josh Hoover as their next quarterback. When these insiders say targeting, like, it's kind of a done deal.
The expectation within the industry, as soon as Hoover went in, Hoosier. That's just been the expectation. Now, stuff changes. Mm-hmm. See what happens, but Indiana's they're going to get one of these top guys, and it seems like Hoover is their guy. Hoover was committed to Indiana. Now, this is pre-SIG, but he's familiar with the program. He was committed to Indiana, and then Sonny Dykes got the TCU job, and then he flipped to TCU. So, yeah, I've been a big fan of Josh Hoover. We've talked about him on here. one of my favorite quarterbacks in college football. I think
It's fun to bet on.
I think he's a really good player. But yeah, I think Indiana should be classified as the favorite. So what we know about this QB market is basically, all right, let's just assume Hoover's going to Indiana. Drew Mestebanker is On3's top quarterback. He's likely following his coach, Eric Morris, Oklahoma State.
Yep.
Sam Levitt is kind of in the Miami LSU sweepstakes. Brendan Sorsby is in like the Texas Tech is like the big one for him, and then also LSU. Byron Brown, a lot of people think he follows Alex Golesh to Auburn. Dylan Raiola, there's been Louisville buzz, then Hoover. DJ Lagway, Louisville and Baylor. Deuce Knight, Rocco Beck think he's gonna fall Penn State. So like the more I kind of look at this, he's like Stein's gonna have to evaluate, pick someone, and go get him. And it's probably not gonna be one of these top 5 guys.
I would also like to add that part of the reason Sorsby's trending to Texas Tech is because his girlfriend transferred there to play volleyball there. So that's good, clean, old fashioned fun, right?
He's from Texas. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
So yes, to your point, there is I'm wondering what the sort of, because the other person that got thrown out a lot early was Austin Novosad, but everything I've heard is that's not going to be the case.
He was not QB2 at Oregon this year.
Yeah. So not holding out any hope for that. But there are some fascinating people in here, like Kenny Minchie, the Notre Dame backup.
Yeah.
I think that's what
that race went down to the wire with him and CJ Carr, and CJ Carr was awesome.
Yeah. So you would think that he would be pretty decent. Another one out here, like what? I'm just wondering who fits the sort of the mold, right? And who does, because if you're Will Stein, you got to turn. You're probably not getting one of the big guys, right? So who has the traits, who has the tools that you like, that you see fit, that you could polish up in your offensive system? Are you going to? I know he's done pretty good with his last 3 transfer quarterbacks at Oregon.
Are you going to do the Mahomes strut? Kentucky adds Dylan Raiola.
I'm fine with it. Yeah, I'll.
Now let's see Nick Roush on Show Me Your Tents doing the Mahomes strut before
wearing the glasses, the big Oakleys.
No, but to me, like Nick, I'm looking at this. I think you're kind of picking from this kind of pool. You're picking from, I think, Lagway, Deuce Knight, Kenny Minchie, Aiden Childs, Bo Pribula, Caton Hauser, Colton Joseph, Old Dominion transfer. Like that is, to me, that's the pool they're picking from.
That ODU guy had a ton of rushing yards last year too. I want to say he had 2,000 passing and 1,000 rushing, which is fun. Aiden Childs too was pretty good early on, but the Jonathan Smith thing just kind of,
the Michigan State stuff did not go well for him. But a lot of people were big on him.
Yeah,
leaving Oregon State.
Yeah, so there will be a lot.
Joseph only completed 59% of his passes. So knowing what we know about Stein, he's probably off the table from an accuracy standpoint. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see kind of what the plan is here. Like Pribula was, like, passing-wise, he was a work in progress. He's more kind of a runner.
Yep.
Childs, damaged goods at this point. I don't want to really call him that, but, like, that's, he's looking for a bounce back. Glagway, accuracy issues. I think Rocco Beck, maybe, but he's probably going to Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
What Ethan Grunkermeyer, the Penn State transfer, he entered today, Ohio kid.
Well,
Kenny Minchie could be kind of you haven't seen him yet, but if you want to make a play on what he's done in the past, he might be a guy. He's from Tennessee, so he's closer to home. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because visits are happening. They're going to have to get kids on campus.
Yeah,
and whoever the quarterback is going to be.
I think the other part we got to remember too is that even though most have entered the portal, more probably will. I would say in the coming days, the dominoes are going to continue to fall. But we're expecting some people probably won't have any visitors arrive on Friday, but visitors will start showing up Saturday, Sunday. I think there's another thing you got to consider too. How big a fish can they now try to go get at other positions? We just talked about offensive line, but receiver was one. Kentucky's been connected to a couple of transfers out there from the SEC so far. And then you look at the defensive side, there's needs there as well. So, and you just added one more big one. I think the part that I'm most fascinated about all of this, Luckett, is that Cutter Boley was the perfect take machine based on what he did, right? Because he performed pretty good, but it wasn't convincing to everyone, right? So, yeah, he had some big numbers. He had set the freshman completion percentage record, but look what he did away from home. He wasn't good enough to win some of those games, right? So, was he actually good enough? Should we just get Will Stein to bring in his own guy? So, it's great for the take ecosystem because
the performances against Louisville, like he played bad twice against Louisville. So that's like an easy, I think, to your point.
Like you got ammo for each argument on either side on whether you wanted Cutter Boley to stay or go. I personally like Cutter. I just between the ears because I think a lot of quarterbacks don't have the right. Like he had a good short-term memory, was aggressive, and played hard. Right? Like I think that's the last aspect too. After seeing some guys come in here and they're getting paid well, and it's like, all right, is this guy even playing hard? Like, does he? I don't know. Like, I love the heart he let it all out there on the field.
Well, I think you said you felt like he cared. I think there's some other guys. Did you feel like they cared a lot? Specifically, cared to be playing here. It felt like when he was on the field. I think he was. For the time he was here, he was all in, where I think some other guys have not necessarily been all in on Kentucky football.
Yeah. Garrett, get you some money. I mean.
Yeah, it's just, massive kind of roster rebuild they're facing here, and we'll have to see how they go about it.
It's important to note, too, that I know things are a little different in Oregon versus Kentucky, but it's still an SEC school. Will Stein, he's coaching the college football playoff, a former transfer portal quarterback that got benched at UCLA. He got Dylan Gabriel to a Heisman Trophy ceremony. He got Bo Nix to a Heisman Trophy ceremony. And Bo Nix was certainly damaged goods when he left Auburn, and now the Broncos are the 1 seed. So he knows a thing or two about developing quarterbacks. That's the one thing, Luckett, about entering this process. I feel a lot better about the people who are leading the transfer portal evaluation than I did the last go around. So we'll have plenty of it when the portal officially opens tomorrow. We're sharing a lot of what we're hearing on KS Board. Come join the party. 50% off annual membership now. Transfer portal special. I don't know how long it's going to be going on, but get on it while you can. We appreciate you hanging out with us on the KSR YouTube channel. Now, let's get Bama to Cover Town, shall we? You got that Bama plus 7.5 ticket, Luckett?
Yeah, it's not looking great right here. We're in the middle 8, and Indiana's driving.
Yeah, not ideal. Well, but hey, Stein, little Oregon money line, a little under. We got 2 wins to bounce back. So let's cash some tickets before the portal chaos begins tomorrow. For Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.